The day began with clear skies over the coastal city, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of salt water from the nearby ocean. The members of BTS, each arriving individually at the private beach, had not seen each other in a matter of weeks due to their busy schedules, ongoing projects, and the periodic demands of global promotions. Cameras captured their movements discreetly, though the focus remained on documenting their reunion rather than creating a public spectacle. Jungkook arrived first, carrying minimal luggage and dressed in casual attire suitable for the seaside environment. His movements were calm and methodical, indicative of someone accustomed to public attention, yet seeking private moments. Soon after, Jin appeared, his presence commanding a subtle authority. He greeted Jungkook with a brief nod and a polite handshake, reflecting their long-standing professional rapport and shared experiences over the years. Suga, RM, and J-Hope followed, completing the majority of the group before Taehyung and Jimin. Taehyung's arrival was marked by an uncharacteristic pause at the entrance of the beach area. Observers noted that he scanned the surroundings with heightened awareness, as though anticipating an unexpected event. His gaze frequently returned to the ocean where the tide lapped at the shoreline. Jimin, carrying a small bag with minimal personal effects, approached the beach from a different path. The meeting of these two members was the precursor to the sequence of interactions that would later attract attention. From the outset, the group's organization adhered to a meticulously planned schedule. Staff members, though present, maintained a significant distance to avoid interfering with the natural flow of the reunion. The setting allowed the members to move freely along the sand, between shallow water and sunlit areas, without obstructions. The visual alignment of the scene, including the gradient of the sky and reflections on the water, would later serve as a key reference point for analyzing body language and interaction patterns. The initial conversations were brief and structured. Jin initiated discussions concerning logistics for the day, including designated areas for photography and the expected rotation for video recordings. RM, known for his observational approach, contributed commentary about recent projects while maintaining a peripheral awareness of interactions among other members. J-Hope engaged in light exchanges with Suga, emphasizing camaraderie without impinging on the broader agenda. Meanwhile, Jungkook, though interacting with several members, appeared focused on maintaining composure, frequently glancing toward the water. Attention shifted when Jimin moved closer to the shoreline, where sunlight reflected on the shallow waves. His movements, deliberate yet seemingly spontaneous, attracted visual acknowledgement from Taehyung, who had taken a position a few meters behind the main gathering. Observers noted that Taehyung's posture displayed subtle indicators of increased attentiveness, his shoulders squared slightly, and his gaze remained fixed on Jimin's movements for an extended duration. These markers, when analyzed in isolation, suggested a heightened state of cognitive engagement with Jimin's actions, diverging from his interactions with other members. As Jimin approached the water, he removed his footwear, allowing the surf to interact with his feet. The ocean responded to each step, creating small, transient waves that reflected sunlight across the sand. Jimin's movements included moments of stooping to adjust his pants and observing patterns in the sand, suggesting a measured awareness of his immediate environment. During this period, Taehyung shifted position slightly, maintaining a parallel trajectory to Jimin while avoiding overt obstruction of the latter's actions. Notably, other members, including Jin and RM, engaged in separate activities that kept them at a moderate distance. Jungkook remained positioned closer to the center of the group, observing both Taehyung and Jimin while participating intermittently in group conversation. The spatial configuration allowed for unobstructed visual monitoring, providing insights into how proximity and line of sight influence subsequent behavioral responses. Throughout the early stages of the beach reunion, Taehyung's engagement remained consistent. Observers tracking movement patterns documented multiple instances of slight forward leans and head tilts, which were interpreted as behavioral markers indicative of attentional focus. Jimin, meanwhile, appeared to operate independently, with limited acknowledgement of Taehyung's adjustments. This asymmetry in awareness created a dynamic that would later be analyzed in terms of interaction sequencing and response timing. By mid-morning, the group's activities transitioned from arrival and orientation to structured interaction with the environment. Cameras recorded sequences of members walking along the shoreline, examining small objects washed ashore and coordinating group positioning for later photography. Taehyung's movements, while aligned with general group directives, maintained consistent orientation toward Jimin. This alignment contrasted with other members whose directional focus was more variable. The early stages of the reunion also highlighted logistical nuances. Staff members managed equipment placement and ensured safety measures without disrupting observational analysis of the members. This controlled environment provided an opportunity to examine nonverbal cues, including body orientation, eye tracking, and microexpressions, which later served as reference points for evaluating interaction dynamics. Notably, Taehyung's micro-adjustments in stance and foot placement indicated conscious efforts to maintain visual contact with Jimin's position along the shoreline. As the morning progressed, the interaction between Taehyung and Jimin became increasingly apparent. While other members maintained social exchanges within the group, Taehyung's behavior suggested focused attention on Jimin's activities. Observers noted consistent line-of-sight alignment, occasional mirroring of movement, and temporal adjustments in pace that coincided with Jimin's actions. These factors collectively established a pattern of behavioral synchronization between the two members, distinct from general group dynamics. By the end of the initial hours, the reunion had settled into a rhythm. Group members engaged in coordinated movement along the sand, participating in light conversation while intermittently interacting with the shoreline environment. The recorded observations highlighted a discrete segment of behavioral attention between Taehyung and Jimin, setting the stage for subsequent events that would be the subject of further analysis. By late morning, the sun had ascended to a mid-angle, casting consistent light across the beach. The tide rhythmically washed over the sand, creating shallow pools that reflected the members' movements. At this stage, the group's activities had naturally divided. Some members engaged in observational exploration of the environment, while others, particularly Taehyung and Jimin, interacted with the water more directly. Jimin advanced toward a section of the shoreline where waves were breaking gently over small rocks. His movements indicated a level of engagement with the environment beyond mere walking. He paused at intervals to observe patterns in the water, occasionally bending to examine pebbles or shells. Each step produced minor ripples that reflected sunlight, enhancing visual contrast and drawing attention to the interaction between the figure and the natural elements. Taehyung, positioned a short distance behind, maintained a steady line of sight on Jimin's movements. His posture remained deliberate. Slight forward inclinations, shoulder adjustments, and directional shifts that preserved visual tracking. Observers of the scene noted that, while other members of the group were scattered along the sand in small clusters, Taehyung's trajectory mirrored Jimin's in subtle ways, without direct approach or interruption. These spatial dynamics suggested a consistent allocation of attention. The initial segment of this shoreline interaction was marked by rhythmic movement. Jimin's pace was unhurried, characterized by brief pauses at visual points of interest. Taehyung's movement, while not identical, showed temporal synchronization. He altered step cadence and angle to maintain peripheral alignment with Jimin's path. In terms of spatial analysis, the distance between the two varied slightly but remained within an observable range that allowed for sustained visual contact. At one point, Jimin knelt to examine a small tide pool, adjusting his hands to explore its content. Taehyung, observing this action, adjusted his stance, shifting weight from one leg to another and tilting his head marginally to maintain an unobstructed view. The remainder of the group continued to move parallel or perpendicular to the shoreline, with no immediate acknowledgement of this localized interaction. Camera footage captured these micro-adjustments, allowing for later frame-by-frame examination of body orientation and gaze focus. Following the tide pool inspection, Jimin moved laterally along the shore toward a section where sunlight created reflective patches across shallow water. As Jimin reached a section where small waves formed natural patterns over sandbars, he paused to shift position, extending one leg into the water while maintaining balance with a lowered center of gravity. Observers noted that this positional adjustment prompted Taehyung to reposition slightly forward, narrowing the visual angle and preserving line-of-sight clarity. The interaction remained nonverbal but exhibited clear patterns of spatial awareness and responsive movement. Over the next series of steps, Jimin began to turn toward the sea intermittently, glancing at the horizon while still engaging with elements at foot level. Taehyung's adjustments reflected anticipation of these movements, incremental sideways steps and subtle changes in head orientation that facilitated continuous observation without direct interference. This sequence persisted over several minutes, establishing a consistent framework for later analysis of behavioral consistency and attentional focus. At a midpoint along the shoreline, Jimin bent to pick up a piece of driftwood, examining its texture and weight. He then balanced it briefly between hands before returning it to the sand. During this time, Taehyung's stance remained oriented toward him, with small forward leans and brief weight shifts indicating sustained attention. Importantly, the behavior occurred without verbal exchange or direct interaction, highlighting a pattern of observation-based alignment rather than active engagement. Nearby, Jungkook continued peripheral observation. Positioned slightly behind the main group's cluster, he alternated between scanning Taehyung's positioning and noting Jimin's activity. Observational notes would later indicate that Jungkook's situational awareness served as a stabilizing factor in the group dynamic, though no intervention or comment was recorded. This secondary layer of attention added context to the visual alignment of Taehyung and Jimin, emphasizing relational positioning within a broader group setting. As the morning progressed, environmental conditions remained stable. The tide shifted minimally, maintaining shallow pools and gentle wave breaks. Light reflection on wet sand created visual contrast, aiding in tracking movement. Jimin moved intermittently towards slightly deeper sections, stepping cautiously to gauge wave resistance. Taehyung continued synchronized positioning, adjusting pace to account for Jimin's rate of movement and trajectory alterations. This sustained parallelism in movement and orientation, while subtle, was consistent throughout the observed time frame. By the latter part of the morning session, additional environmental elements came into play. Small flocks of seabirds landed near the water's edge, prompting minor pauses in group movement. Jimin momentarily altered trajectory to avoid interference, and Taehyung correspondingly adjusted stance to maintain uninterrupted line of sight. No verbal communication occurred during this adjustment, yet the behavioral sequence indicated continuous visual monitoring. During these minutes, several frames of recorded footage captured sequential microbehaviors, head tilt angles, foot positioning, and hand adjustments. Analysts later noted that these microbehaviors constituted measurable indicators of attentional focus. While the broader group engaged in multiple tasks and dispersed interactions, the pairing of Taehyung's attention with Jimin's activity presented a distinct pattern, particularly in terms of spatial positioning, temporal synchronization, and visual alignment. As this segment concluded, the group began transitioning toward a designated area for group photography. The observational period at the shoreline ended, yet the documented sequence provided a clear baseline for evaluating behavioral responses. Taehyung's consistent adjustments, synchronized pacing, and maintained line of sight demonstrated a structured pattern of attentional engagement. Jimin's movements, largely independent, served as the anchor for this pattern without overt acknowledgement. By early afternoon, sunlight had intensified, casting elongated shadows across the beach while maintaining consistent illumination of the shoreline. The group had moved into a broader spatial configuration, with members dispersing along varying distances parallel to the waterline. At this juncture, the interactions between Taehyung and Jimin began to demonstrate nuanced variations in behavior, particularly regarding directional attention, pacing, and micro-adjustments to spatial positioning. Jimin, continuing his exploration, approached a shallow inlay of water where small currents intersected with sand formations. His approach included careful placement of each foot, indicating both awareness of environmental conditions and deliberate engagement with the dynamic patterns of the surf. Taehyung, maintaining a position slightly inland relative to Jimin, exhibited a series of responsive adjustments. His feet shifted to maintain a direct line of sight, while subtle alterations in torso orientation suggested sustained observation. The tracking appeared continuous, Regardless of minor changes in Jimin's trajectory or the occasional movement of other group members across the scene, other members occupied peripheral areas. Jin focused on camera angles, RM evaluated notes and schedules, and Jungkook intermittently observed the interactions from an intermediate distance. These peripheral positions facilitated unobstructed observation of Taehyung's adjustments relative to Jimin without direct interference. Importantly, this spatial distribution provided a layered context for analyzing behavioral coordination and attention allocation within the group. As Jimin engaged with the shallow currents, he interacted briefly with a small floating object, moving it along the water's surface and adjusting hand position to maintain balance. Taehyung responded with a micro-adjustment in stance, including minor lateral shifts and head tilts, to preserve a consistent observational angle. These adjustments were temporally aligned with Jimin's actions, occurring within seconds of each change in movement or orientation. Analysts later noted that such micro-adjustments indicated a pattern of predictive tracking rather than reactive alignment alone. The group's dynamics became increasingly complex when J-Hope initiated a coordinated movement sequence with Suga and RM, walking along the higher sand areas while maintaining conversational engagement. Their trajectory intersected with Taehyung's observational line on several occasions, prompting brief micro-orientations to avoid obstruction while retaining visual focus on Jimin. These momentary adjustments, though subtle, demonstrated the maintenance of attentional priority toward Jimin despite environmental interruptions. Jimin subsequently moved toward a cluster of small tidal pools, stepping cautiously between them. He paused intermittently, adjusting stance and examining the water. Taehyung's behavioral response remained consistent. Minute shifts in foot positioning, slight tilts in head angle, and continuous gaze alignment. Notably, these adjustments occurred without any verbal communication or physical approach, emphasizing visual attentional engagement as a primary mode of interaction. Observers documented the sustained duration of this alignment, noting its deviation from general group patterns, where attention was distributed more broadly. During this period, occasional peripheral interactions were recorded. Jungkook, positioned between Taehyung and other members, observed the dynamic with intermittent glances toward both individuals. No direct engagement occurred. However, his presence provided a stabilizing factor in spatial coordination, ensuring that movements of either Taehyung or Jimin did not inadvertently create overlap or obstruction. This secondary layer of observation contributed to a controlled environment conducive to accurate behavioral analysis. The tidal pools, Jimin engaged in subtle manipulations of water movement with hand gestures, creating transient ripples across the surface. Taehyung's stance adjusted in real time, including slight lateral pivots and weight redistribution to maintain uninterrupted line of sight. These responses were recorded as part of a sequential analysis, revealing patterns of anticipatory alignment that were consistent across multiple observed intervals. Importantly, these behaviors were independent of environmental distractions or interjections from other members. Further along the shoreline, environmental conditions remained stable, with gentle waves and minimal wind interference. This consistent setting allowed the group to move freely while preserving visibility for each individual. Taehyung continued parallel alignment with Jimin, occasionally synchronizing step cadence to accommodate minor shifts in pace. Such synchronization was subtle but measurable, reflecting ongoing behavioral consistency within the observed interaction. A notable sequence occurred when Jimin shifted position to examine a shell embedded in the sand. He bent slightly, adjusting balance with a widened stance. Taehyung mirrored the minor forward lean while maintaining slight lateral spacing. Video footage indicated that these micro-adjustments occurred repeatedly in response to specific cues in Jimin's movements, demonstrating a continuous chain of visual attention coupled with spatial responsiveness. By the end of the afternoon segment, the group regrouped in preparation for collective photographs and coordinated documentation. Taehyung's sustained attentional alignment with Jimin had persisted over multiple observation intervals, demonstrating consistent behavioral patterns despite environmental variability and group-wide movement. Jimin's independent actions, while largely unaltered by Taehyung's presence, provided a stable framework for evaluating these patterns. As the afternoon progressed, the sun maintained a stable position, creating sharp reflections across the surface of the gentle waves. The group continued along the shoreline, now dispersed in smaller clusters, with each member engaging in discrete activities. Taehyung and Jimin's movement patterns began to display subtle complexity, influenced by the shifting topography of the sand and the unpredictable motion of the incoming tide. Jimin approached a section of the beach where the water pooled around partially submerged rocks. His steps were calculated, testing the firmness of the sand and maintaining balance against minor currents. This section of the shoreline introduced variability in movement patterns. Minor obstacles and uneven surfaces required micro-adjustments. Taehyung's positioning responded to these changes in real time. Observers documented lateral shifts, slight forward leans, and incremental changes in pace, all executed to maintain a consistent line of sight on Jimin's location. Other members were actively engaged elsewhere. Jin coordinated angles for the next set of photographs, moving along elevated sand ridges. RM and Suga discussed scheduling matters while walking parallel to the shoreline. J-Hope intermittently interacted with the environment, examining patterns in sand displacement and wave behavior. These peripheral actions created a layered observational environment, allowing analysts to distinguish focused diatic interaction from general group behavior. A notable sequence occurred when Jimin reached a shallow pool formed by a receding wave. He knelt to adjust the water flow around a small cluster of rocks, testing movement with both hands. Taehyung's micro-adjustments mirrored these interactions, including minor rotational shifts of the torso and recalibration of foot placement. These responses were executed without direct communication, emphasizing continuous visual engagement as a primary mode of behavioral alignment. As Jimin rose and repositioned along the wet sand, he encountered a small wave breaking slightly faster than the others. His steps adjusted to accommodate the shifting water, with a brief pause as he scanned the immediate environment. Taehyung's posture demonstrated anticipatory adjustments, subtle step cadence modifications, and minor torso rotation to preserve a clear visual trajectory. The alignment persisted across multiple cycles of wave interaction, indicating consistent attentional tracking despite environmental variability. The complexity of the interaction increased when Jimin shifted toward an area with uneven sand elevation. Navigating this section required both balance and visual attention to potential trip hazards. Taehyung responded with synchronous pacing adjustments, maintaining relative distance while optimizing viewing angle. Observational data later indicated that these adjustments were predictive rather than purely reactive, suggesting a continuous assessment of environmental cues in relation to Jimin's movement. Simultaneously, Jungkook observed the diatic interaction from an intermediary distance. His positioning ensured that neither Taehyung nor Jimin's movements were obstructed by other members, serving as an unintentional stabilizer of the spatial dynamics. Peripheral interactions continued with minor engagement from Jin, RM, and Suga, yet these did not interfere with the focused attention observed between Taehyung and Jimin. At one point, Jimin bent to examine a small shell partially buried in the wet sand. Taehyung responded with minor shifts in stance, including a forward lean and subtle adjustment of head angle. The interval between Jimin's action and Taehyung's corresponding adjustment averaged less than 2 seconds, providing measurable data for analysis of attentional synchrony. This micro-timing consistency persisted across several sequences, emphasizing the structured nature of the observed behavioral alignment. Environmental stimuli contributed to minor interruptions. Small seabirds landed nearby, prompting Jimin to take brief side steps. Taehyung maintained attentional focus, adjusting movement accordingly to preserve visual contact. Waves continued to produce minor variability in the walking surface, which required adaptive balance and repositioning for both individuals. Observers noted that these environmental fluctuations did not disrupt the continuous alignment between Taehyung and Jimin. Following these events, Jimin moved slightly farther into the water, where wave depth increased marginally. His steps were cautious, emphasizing stability over speed. Taehyung matched the change in velocity with minor pacing modifications, ensuring that visual